So I vaguely have this idea of making a little video every day, but I don't know, just busy some days, don't get to it, and then, I just don't feel like, oh, make that time. And I think part of it is this quality of how much this is a dialogue of the kind I was hoping for or imagined that it to be. Same thing with the idea of working on like a debate website, because now it's like, well, I mean, my idea was structured conversation, where I bought years ago and accidentally got renewed again. Bought discourse.technology, as if people really wanted to talk to each other. But really, so far people, mostly like 90 to 99 to maybe 99.99% of the people doing this philosophical discussion just, I don't know, they're just helping us out, giving us the real truth. So it's made me think that, okay, there's some other projects I should probably, I don't want to put all the work into an idea when maybe there really isn't this community. I mean, I used to, years ago, I was looking at it and going like, there's a couple 100,000 people doing this kind of discussion, philosophical vlogging on politics or whatever. And we need a better tool. But now it's like, I'm not really sure. It's more like, I think a lot of you guys all just think you're doing top dogging, nerd battles, which is just so depressing because you're not really that good at nerding. Not really that. But anyway, that's not what this video is about. This video is about this, just to share my perspective on the whole determinism thing. Now, the way I see the argument for determinism is very similar to something we could get a lesson from Zeno's paradox and everything sort of surrounding. Holy shit, those are weird. My wife told me about those. Look, this is a weird mushroom. It's just popped up in the last couple of days here in fall. There's a line of them from over there. Weird. I don't know what those are. She's like, should we pick them? I don't know. There's nothing wrong with them as far as I know. They look like rotten wood. Or they look like the part of the wood that isn't rotten after the rotten wood all gets blown away. Or it's similar to this whole canard, nobody really knows where it came from, of, some aerodynamicist saying it's impossible for bumblebees to fly. Now, in the Zeno's case, so Zeno's paradox, there's a bunch of ways to put it. I mean, my favorite way, I'll tell you my favorite way and then the way that we'll use it in this video. My favorite way of describing it is, the tortoise and the hare, right? The tortoise gets to start out in front, and they're both moving the same direction, and the hare is moving much faster, and the argument is that the hare will never they'll never pass the turtle, because you start the race, the turtle is ahead. Before the hare can catch up with the turtle, the hare has to reach that place that the tortoise was, and the tortoise will have moved. The turtle and tortoise is the same in this case. Will have moved, right? So there'll be a distance between them, and the hare, again, will be chasing the tortoise and get to the point that the tortoise was at that previous time, but the tortoise will have moved. And so the hare will always be at a point behind the tortoise. Induction. All right. So, but the way we'll use it is you could do the same thing with half of that. You could just say, Zeno says it's impossible to cross the road because before you can cross the road, you have to go halfway. Before you can cross the rest, you have to go halfway. And since there's an infinite number of steps to doing that, you'll never actually get all the way across the road. Now, in the case of the bumblebee, I mean, I think it's pretty obvious. Some people have used that story over the years to say, like, how stupid scientists are. But obviously, a scientist, they all knew bumblebees fly. And a statement like that is a statement that our aerodynamics can't explain it. the situation. Or in that case, it's not even trying, because our aerodynamics of the time that might have been said, especially, were about fixed wing aerodynamics, not about the flexible wing aerodynamics of a bug, which, there's a lot of tricks with creating eddies and wind currents that allow bugs to fly, more than one. So I think that the Zeno's argument, the argument for determinism is like a Zeno argument. It's like, by the reasoning we're used to, seems like that must be the case, right? Because we're making assumptions, but then we look with our eyes and we see we do cross the road. We cross the road. So there must be something wrong with that argument, or with arguments in general, possibly. In the case of Zeno's paradox, it just happened to be that they didn't really understand infinite sums. You can infinitely sum something, and you could think it through with common sense. If you cut the road in half, how much do the two halves add up to? 1. If you cut the half into 2 halves, how much did that add up? A half. So no matter how many times or which parts you cut in half, the total is always going to add up to 1. Not infinity. So the fact that you're cutting up an infinite number of times doesn't make the road infinitely far across, and you can cross it. But suffice it to say, a lot of people don't get that now. That seems like a weird paradox to them. And back then, they definitely didn't have the tools. Some people could still see a way around it, but plenty of people couldn't. And it's just a matter of, look, I cross the road every day. If I have an argument that I can't cross the road, but I cross the road every day to go get water, and what am I going to tell myself? Well, I'm not really crossing the road. That's an illusion. But I live that way because, I got to get the water. That's not honest. You're saying you believe something. You're living by the illusion. You're investing your life's survival risks based on accepting the illusion. So you need to either admit you still do believe this thing that you, for some other reason, you think is an illusion, or you need to admit that your reasoning, which is the real purpose. Zeno wasn't proposing we couldn't cross the road. He was making a critique of human reason, right? That if a philosopher argues something from pure reason, and you have direct experiences that contradict it, that means there's something wrong with the argument. Now, of course, there are things that are illusions, like the sun rises. The sun doesn't really rise. We're spinning around, coming out of the shadow of the very own earth that we're standing on, and the sun